you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. How are you today, Pierre?
Excellent. Looking at a beautiful sunny snowscape outside.
Yes.
So I don't know why I said sunny, but it's kind of like Christmas, after Christmas.
All right. Baby Christmas. There we go. Baby Christmas, Pierre. That's all.
The lake finally froze. That's good.
They're doing that around here, too. I've been seeing a lot more people out skating about around.
You won't be skating on this lake yet, but at least it's frozen.
Yeah. I don't know if I would skate on the lakes here, actually. I think they're risking it a bit, but God bless them and God bless their passion to get out and play a little shinny. But Pierre, there will be a lot of shinny on the NHL ice tonight. 13 games on the docket for tonight. Before we do that and look ahead to that and some of the hot topics, and there's something that's just come across my desk here that I definitely want to get to you about. But let's look back at last night, Pierre. And, you know, one team I said to you today when I called you when we were talking, prepping for the show, that I just, look, do I think they're going to the playoffs? No. Do I think they deserve a ton of credit for progressing the way they have this season and for always being in most games, 90% of the games, they're in it, whether they win or lose. They're a pain in the neck to play against. That is the Philadelphia Flyers, Pierre. They come back, roaring back, and beat the Florida Panthers 4-3 last night. What's been your take on what's gotten the Flyers to this stage? Because let's face it, there were some times maybe early in the season, excuse me, and obviously times last season, where some people thought John Tortorella was on the hot seat, and we're questioning the direction of Pierre and Keith Jones, and I was one of them. So I'll full out admit it, but they have somehow, I think they're slowly building an identity there in Philly, Pierre. I don't know if you agree with me.
Young players are getting better, which is really good for them. Ty Forster is getting better. Morgan Frost is getting better. Noah Cates is getting better. He had 2 goals last night. You look on defense, Jamie Drysdale is getting better. Cam York is getting better. Travis Sanheim's already ascended. He's going to play for Canada at the Four Nations. But, we don't talk enough about the star power of Travis Konecny. Travis Konecny is an elite player in the league. He's an elite player in the league. It's not just checking. It's just not being a pain in your side. He's an elite player. He makes a difference almost every game he plays in. So internal development, good leadership. Couturier is still a real good leader. He's not nearly the same player, obviously injuries. If there's one question mark about their group right now, it's goaltending. We'll see how that plays out long term. I don't know if they're going to have enough to make the playoffs this year, but they are definitely getting their program going, which is really good news for them. And in Lehigh Valley, their farm team, they're definitely in a major battle to maintain a playoff position and make some moves in the playoffs too. So things are going well for them right now for Philadelphia.
You bring up Travis Konecny, and I'm so glad you did there, Pierre. I remember back in the 2015 draft, and I don't know, maybe it was you. I'm texting a bunch of people during the draft as it's going on. And when the Bruins set themselves up to get those 3 picks in a row in the first round, was it 12, 13, and 14 or 13, 14, 15? I'm not sure.
I think 12, 13.
14, yeah.
13.
And it might have been you or it might have been another one of my friends in the biz just say they need to jump on Konecny. Get on Konecny. Get on Konecny. Not only did they pass on him, he dropped all the way to 24th. So, looking back, hindsight's 2020, but I'm just wondering if you can go back to that time, Pierre, if you remember what might have been the question marks around him, and has he erased those question marks?
Well, the size. Everybody's concerned about the size. I mean, he was a lean, small kid, but that's why when you're drafting kids at 18, you can't really project where they're going to be physically. Like if a kid's 6'2", 165, chances are when he plays for, he's going to be 6'2", 195. Mm-hmm. But if a kid's 5'11", and he's 158 pounds, which is going to be pretty darn close to where Konecny was when he was drafted, even though he probably had inflated weights. I watched him play a ton in junior, and he was a dominant junior player because every single shift he took, he was like a buzzsaw. He never backed off.
And by the way, it was actually, I was wrong. It was 13, 14, and 15 the Bruins had. They took Zaboral at 13, DeBrusk at 14, and Zach Senyshyn.
Zach Senyshyn. Let me tell you one thing about Zach, though. Wasn't his fault he got drafted there.
Nope.
but I had the privilege of working with him when he played in the American Hockey League for our team in Ottawa and Belleville. Couldn't have found a nicer boy, hard worker, good to his teammates, listen to the coaches, easy to talk to as a management person. He was never a problem. Look, they made a mistake on him. Okay, they know that. They know they made a mistake on Zaboral too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you look at it, they did. I mean, that's okay, but that's not the kid's fault.
No, I'm glad you say that. And not to sidetrack a bit, but it just brings up an interesting topic because I think we see it a lot, Pierre. As a coach or a management member who's had to work with younger kids and help develop them, when that happens to a kid, not just him, but any player that maybe gets drafted way higher than he should be, and then that sort of stays on him like a weight because he really wasn't that player that team projected. What's the advice you give to the kid to find his spot, whether it be in the AHL, the NHL, but to find his spot in pro hockey?
What an awesome question. So, Jimmy, everybody's got their own feel for how to do this. I think it's really important that you find the player, you sit them down and say, okay, who did you think you were going to be like before you got in the league?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think you are like now? And who do you need to be like to stay in the league? So you put it on their plate. You let them talk about, when I was a kid growing up, I thought I was going to be Mark Messier. That didn't work out. So who do you think you are now? Because if they can't tell you who they are, then you got to really rebuild them. So hopefully he's going to say, well, I think I'm an offensive player. Okay. Who in the league do you want to be like to survive? And then you can start to build. But if he's way off base, and he says, well, I think I'm an offensive player, and there's no chance he's an offensive player. That's where you kind of have to shut him down and say, okay, the offensive stuff's not working. So let's find where you can be. So you got to work. I had lots of good discussions with Zach Sinishin when he was down in Belleville. I thought the world of the kid, and our coaches had nothing but great things to say about him. Nothing but really good things to say about him. So again, that wasn't his fault. If you had to do a do-over, I'm sure Matt Barzell would have been in Boston. I'm sure Thomas Chabot probably would have been in Boston. Like, you can go look it up afterwards. But all those guys were taken after where the Bruins picked.
Yeah.
So,
well, unfortunately Zach, it didn't work out, but he did a lot of moving, Pierre, in his career. And that brings me to our new but old sponsor that's back on board with us, TCS Shipping and Handling. You can go right there, unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics from around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. We're glad to have Michael and TCS back on board here with the eye test.
Yeah, thanks a lot to Michael Maslin and everybody at TCS. We're really excited to have you back, and we're going to do our best to deliver for you, just like you deliver for so many people. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Pierre, in that same discussion we had about the Flyers, we discussed the other side of the rink of that game, the Florida Panthers, who lost in them 4-3. And, no Aaron Ekblad. So that's working against them already. But as you pointed out, it happens at different times for different teams. But are we maybe finally seeing not just the Stanley Cup hangover from now, but a cumulative 2-year Stanley Cup hangover maybe starting to take effect a bit for the Florida Panthers? Yeah,
and some hard series. Last year, the Stanley Cup final went to a 7th game.
Yep.
And they play a arduous physical style. And they've lost some players. I'm so happy you brought up Aaron Ekblad. I don't think he gets nearly enough credit. I know he was a first overall, and everybody's, he should be that, and he's into his career now. Aaron's an important player there. He's especially with stopping power. He's a really important player there. Brandon Montour's not there anymore. He's playing in Seattle. You look at some of the guys that have gone. They've lost some guys there that were Oliver Ekman-Larsson. They lost, they're playing without 3 regular guys from their Stanley Cup winning defense. That's hard to do.
Yep.
People, they don't want to give enough credit. Look, these guys have been through a lot. Paul Maurice knows where his team is. I think they'll get it sorted out. And they've got time before the deadline. The only thing that scares me, and I shouldn't say scares me because I'm not afraid of anything. The only thing that I'm concerned with for them, They got a lot of guys playing in the Four Nations. They got a lot. I think, what is it, 7 or 8 they have in there, Jimmy?
Golden Knights. Yep, 7 players.
They got 7. So they got a lot of guys playing in that. And that's the one thing that you got to be concerned about if you're the management team or the coaching staff down in Florida.
Yeah, and I'm looking, who's behind him here right now. I mean, I'm going to go right now. I know they're only 3 points ahead of them, but I mean, I'm sticking with my pick and your pick for Toronto to take the Atlantic Division. Okay. Yep. So now let's just push them to the side there. They're going to do what they're going to do. Now you're looking below the Panthers, right? And, Tampa, 4 points back right now, but they've got 3 games in hand on Florida. So they still, you never know, Pierre. I mean, they still could overtake them for second place there and steal away the home advantage for the first round if this is what it ends up being as a first round matchup.
I don't think that bothers Florida though.
In Florida, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if they were, let's just say Florida wasn't in Florida. Yeah, so I don't think that bothers them.
Okay.
Other teams I think might be concerned about that, but I don't think that bothers them too much. Last year, what they had to go through, the year before, what they learned losing to Vegas in the final, they learned a lot. See, this is what I keep trying to tell people, and you and I have had this discussion both on and there and off the air. Everybody wants to win the Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thinks they know what it takes to win the Stanley Cup until they get in the Stanley Cup final. And all of a sudden, it comes so fast and it comes so intense. And after the first year you're in it, you're like, oh, man, I thought I knew, and I had no idea. And then if you're fortunate enough to go back a second time, you're way more poised. You're way more understanding of the situation, and it's easier to digest. The first time around, and I think that happened to Florida, their first time when they went to Vegas with that team, obviously with that team, because they'd been to the final before, but back when I was working back in, the mid-90s. But you learn a lot, Jimmy. Everybody says, I'm going to win the cup. Wait, just get to the final, then tell me how you're going to do.
You know what, Pierre? That's a great exercise. I'm going to try and do sometime this week. I'm writing it down right now. Teams that make it to the cup.
Yep.
Get a bit awestruck their first time around, but make it back. I'm going to say make it back. Maybe they lose again, but at least they make it back. And I'll tell you a team that I think really learned from experience, at least the core. Well, I guess maybe it was too far away. I'm thinking of Tampa Bay Lightning, Pierre, when they went in 2015 and they were always hanging around the conference final, the second round. But the core changed quite a bit from then until.
No, because Hedman was there. Stamkos was there. You started to add Cirelli into that. You started to add Point into that. But no, Vasilevsky was there.
All right.
A lot of those, Ryan McDonald, there were guys there. I think that's a good choice by you, Jimmy. I do. I think that's a really good choice. Here's one that I would throw at you saying, okay, they went, they lost, they learned their lesson, they got better. Can you think which one I'm talking about?
Ooh.
And it's in recent time. It's not like way far gone.
Are we talking pre-2010?
Yes.
Chicago.
No.
Okay.
Carolina.
Oh.
Carolina in 2002 goes to the final.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a different coach. Paul Maurice is coaching. But they go and they lose to Scotty Bowman's team, right?
Yep.
But in 2006, remember now we had a nuclear winter. So 2004, 2005, there's no hockey.
Yep.
So those guys played 2002, 2003, 2003, 2004.
Mm-hmm.
No hockey. Stanley Cup final 2006 with Laviolette, and they win.
Yep.
Most of the core, whether it was Stahl, whether it was Brindamore, like a lot, Glenn Wesley, you go look at the core of that team.
Yeah.
They were all in the 2002 phase.
Mm-hmm.
They learned a whack of stuff.
Yeah.
And then they go to 2006. They're well coached, really well coached. They win a game 7 on home ice against an Edmonton Oilers team that no way should Edmonton have been in the final. No way.
It's a great roller on though.
And look he's a friend of mine and I really respect him. That's the best McTavish ever coached in his career.
Oh my gosh, yeah, totally.
Craig coached so well in that playoff. He deserved so much credit for that. I hope he got a big raise from Edmonton because he coached his butt off in that one. He really did.
There was a player, I'm sure you know Pierre, but I'm just wondering for our listeners, a player from Providence College.
Fernando Pisani.
Pisani.
He was so good. You know, Fernando was just, he couldn't miss. And what we talked about good kids. You know, we're talking about Zach Sinishin. Fernando Pisani is an amazing young man.
I met him.
Amazing.
Class act.
Just a great person, really good person.
Yeah. That was some great Jim. You know, we're rambling here a bit, but Jim Rutherford with his work at that deadline, Pierre, the 2006 deadline.
Well, Dougie Waite came in and so did Mark Recchi.
Yep.
Those are two pretty good pickups. People don't even remember that Waite played in Carolina.
I know.
Like, I forget it.
That run?
I know it's a long time ago. It's almost 20 years ago, but still.
You know what? Let's just pull up that lineup too, because where was Hedekin part of the team, or
he was there. Yeah, Brett was there. Yeah,
he was a solid deep man.
He was a really good player.
Yeah, he was great. But yeah, I find it interesting. I'm going to go back and try and just study some of those teams who were knocking on the door.
That's one that when I think about it over time, that's one that really stands out. I think where LA learned a lot. They had to go through that freaking team in Chicago. So they would have those battles, or Anaheim or San Jose back in the day. So they were grinding. LA was grinding all the time, and their core. And then, they bring in Sutter.
Yeah.
And, I know he's got different methods. I get it. Daryl's a heck of a coach. I coached against him. Both as an assistant and as a head coach. He's a heck of a coach. Yeah. Really, really good coach.
I covered, Pierre, the Boston Bruins. They blow that 3-game series lead to Philly. They come back the next year and
So let me ask you about that. Let me ask you about that one, because I did all the games in that series. Mm-hmm. How big was the broken wrist injury?
That was a series.
I think that was a series. Yeah.
Here, I've told you this story. I don't know if I've told it on air, and I'm not lying. I'm not saying, oh, see, I knew what I was talking about. I literally, because at the time, I didn't think I knew what I was talking about. I was just saying it was my gut reaction. It wasn't really well thought out. But then as the series went on, I'm like, I might be onto something there. I'm walking out of that rink after that game that Krejci got hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm with Joe Haggerty, fellow Bruins reporter. And I said to him, they're going to lose this series. You're nuts. They're 3-0. What are you, nuts? There's no way they lose it. Krejci's done, and he's huge to this team right now.
He ever played.
He was on his way to Conn Smythe-worthy stat.
I agree. He was at that level.
Doing it the next year. But that was it, Pierre. That was it. But like I said, after that game, one of the last people I spoke to, and everyone had kind of filtered out, and as he always is, Mark Recchi just stays there, even in the face of defeat, talking and talking and talking. And then, everyone left. It was just me and him. And he looked, he said, this is what we needed to win the cup. We'll be back next year. Don't you worry. And they used that. They channeled it. And I love when teams can channel heartbreak into the next year. People say, oh, this is a new year. We're living in the moment. That may be true. I don't doubt that. But don't tell me that stuff like that doesn't build character and help you advance down the line.
Oh, it absolutely does. Absolutely. But I also think you need to have guys that are mature like Mark.
Oh, yeah.
So you know the story better than anybody because you were there.
Yep.
That 11 team, when they were down in Montreal, they didn't hang in Montreal. They went to Lake Placid.
Nope.
And they didn't go bowling. They went and had fun. They had fun as a group. And that changed the whole dynamic of the series.
Yeah. They lose that series. Claude Julien's gone. I'm convinced.
It would have changed a lot of people's lives if they lost that series.
Yep. That saved a lot
of people's lives.
That was a heck of a comeback. All right. One other thing. We were talking about the Panthers there. So, yeah, we're not too worried. This is expected. But, Pierre, Montreal Canadiens news, and really just scary stuff. Emil Heineman out 3 to 4 weeks after a traffic accident where he was apparently hit by a car. This is a guy, Pierre, and I don't want to see him get into the news this way, but he's in the news. It's kind of a guy I think flies under the radar. The Montreal Canadiens.
Not if you watch Montreal play every night. He, Jake Evans, and Yoel Armia are a phenomenal line. And that's why the great Bowman says never number your lines, because one night your fourth is going to be your first and your first is going to be your fourth. they say, quote unquote, Evans, Armia, and Heineman are their fourth line. Not a chance. More times than not, it's their second line. And they're good, and they're really important. And he's had a great year so far. He can skate at an elite level, not a little bit good, really good. He can shoot the puck at an elite level, and his release is lightning quick. He's not shy, and he's a gamer. He is a gamer. So I look at – so he was originally drafted by Florida, gets traded to Calgary, and gets picked up by Montreal in the Tyler Toffoli deal. That's how he ends up there.
Yep.
So heck of a pickup by Ken Hughes, obviously, and Jeff Gordon. But the scouts had to be involved in that because he's an amateur player at that time. He's not a pro player.
Credit to them for sure.
Yeah.
And then this just coming across the wire. Now we're not going to. I know you hate going into
do drama today.
No drama. I just want to ask you if you think, and I do because it's the report of the reporting, and I think there's credence to it, but it seems like it's more of a speculation / opinion on his part. But I do want to ask you about the future of this player with his team. Rene Lavoie is reporting that if Mikko Rantanen and the Colorado Avalanche cannot come to a contract extension within the next few weeks, let's just say by the Four Nations, that he could very well be moved at the deadline. I don't want to go into that speculation. What I want you to talk about is if a player like that ever because right now I'm looking across, we're talking about players that could be available at the NHL trade deadline. You and I talk all the time, but if there's a player like that was to suddenly become available, how much would that alter the market?
Changes the trajectory of a lot of teams. And I won't go into the team. Personally, I'm not going down that road.
Yeah, we're not going
I
into
want to be on the record right now because I know how people twist words.
Yep.
I'm going on the record right now. I'm not saying that kid's getting traded.
No
way. No chance. So just remember I said
I'm going to go on the record and say my question to Pierre McGuire right now is if a player of the caliber of Mikko Rantanen, we'll say a player like a big
changes the direction of a team going into the playoffs significantly. If you think you're one player away and you need a forward who can score and play playoff hockey, he changes the competitive balance for your team significantly.
How about the teams that are in that group, Pierre, that could still fall out and are going to be down to the wire, whether they're buyers or sellers?
Yeah, if I were them,
I'm a buyer.
You're going to get that player, but you're going to hurt the chemistry of your team long term, and he's probably not going to sign back with you.
Yep.
Especially if you're a Canadian-based team. Jimmy, I sent you an article about the taxes and stuff.
I know.
It's not getting easier for the Canadian. Like the Canadian managers, those Canadian GMs, and I mean Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver. You try to be one of those guys and see how hard it is to do a deal with players coming up.
Yeah,
it's not going to be easy to do deals with players.
So you basically, you got to look at it. Unless I know I can get an extension with a pending UFA of that caliber, then I'm not doing a deal. Yeah,
no, because you're not staying.
Yeah,
it's just too hard. It's too hard. Agents aren't silly. Most of these agents are highly cerebral, financially trained people, whether as lawyers, as accountants, as fiduciaries. Like they're really smart people, most of them. And they know what the laws are. They know what the tax implications are. So if you were to ask me, could Detroit use him? Yeah. Could Florida Panthers use him? Yeah. Tampa Bay Lightning? Yeah. Carolina Hurricanes? Yeah. Let me ask you this one. What happens if you went to LA? There's a history of players going between LA and Colorado. Blake and Sakic are friends. I don't know. I'm just asking.
I'm kind of setting my eyes, not just on him, just on a player in his position, expiring contract, probably won't sign because of the taxes or the Canadian dollar, what have you. So let's just stay with the no tax states, Pierre. Out of all the no tax states, there's one team we haven't brought up that I think is going to go
Vegas.
They're going big at the deadline. Nope.
They always do though.
Vegas always goes big.
They're the masters of this. They're
Alice
fearless. Oh, Dallas? They could go big too. They could.
Because I think their window is not closing, but they're in the window. They're in the window.
Well, they're definitely no. And you made a really good point probably 2 weeks ago. You're telling me off the air about Sagan, injured, obviously.
Yep.
And they've had some young guys come up and do some really good things. They have. They've had some young forwards come in and play really well. But they need Sagan back,
right?
I think. And they probably need a little bit more. I think they were really disappointed last year. When they lost Edmonton, I think they were really disappointed.
Yeah, especially the way that series went, right?
That's what I mean. The year before, I don't think they were as disappointed because obviously Vegas went on to win. But last year, I think they were pretty darn disappointed.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. Just bouncing around before we get to my pick of the night. I got a couple picks, actually. There's so many games tonight. But Pierre, anything else on your mind today?
Great goalie showdown last night. Edmonton, LA. Darcy Kemper was really good for LA. And obviously Skinner made a couple unbelievable saves and had a little bit of luck with a goalpost. But that was a really good hockey. Even though it was a 1-0 game, that was a really good hockey game.
Yeah.
It just breaks my heart because they're probably going to play each other again in the first round of the playoffs.
Yep.
Like, those are two good teams.
Yeah.
It kind of stinks.
It goes deep, and then one of them's gone no matter what.
One is gone right away. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Like Winnipeg and Colorado might play each other again too. You know?
That could definitely happen too. For sure. So
I'm glad you did bring up LA though, because I think we got to maybe we'll get Glenn Murray on again or an LA guest soon. They've got the time zone thing going against them. They're out there, so not a lot of people see him here out east a lot. And B, they're just not that flashy team, right? I mean, if you put them up against Edmonton, Edmonton's got so much more flash, offensive flair, right? But Pierre, the more I watch that LA team right now, they are a team built playoff. They're built for the playoffs.
They're big, they're robust, and they're doing this without Drew Doughty. People forget that.
Exactly.
You know, like Drew Doughty, he's really good still. So they're getting that done without him. So more and more guys are getting experience.
Yeah.
You know, I know they were mad at Alex Laferriere last night because he took a penalty, and I saw the coach from my friend Jimmy Hiller, the coach there, and I get it. I've been in Jimmy's shoes, so you get ticked off. Don't take a penalty there, you know. But they got good stuff going on in LA. Their development program's really good. Their drafting's been really good. Obviously, Kopitar is a freak. He's a physical freak. Yeah. He's just so good. It's amazing how many minutes he can play.
I know
how efficient he is. It's really amazing.
He's such a leader too. And you brought up Kemper earlier there. We'll move on, but just, you know, like I think it was a couple of days ago, I said to you, somebody was trying to say, Washington got the best of that trade, and it was, you know, with Dubois. And I'm like, actually, I think it's one of the most even trades I've seen in a long time.
Hockey trade. No, you're good to say that. I agree.
Great hockey trade. I want to see more like that. Yeah. That was great scouting on both sides to identify the need and what the fit and everything. So,
I agree. I couldn't agree more, actually. I'm spot on. You're right on, Jimmy. You know, here's the one thing. Kemper's good. But if they're going to take – and I think DJ Smith knows this. I think Jimmy Hiller knows this. If they're going to go for a run, they got to get Drew back. Like, if they're going to do something, they without Drew, it's just in the playoffs, it's just too hard.
Yeah.
They need to get him back. I don't know when he's coming back, but they need him back.
Well, we'll see. I'll try and look into that for you and talk about tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, and speaking of the Edmonton Oilers, their former general manager and, of course, former Detroit Red Wings general manager and Hall of Famer Ken Holland will be joining us again here on the Eye Test. So everyone's going to want to tune in for that here on the Sick Podcast Network. Looking forward to that. We look ahead to Thursday, Pierre. We're going to talk some Carolina Hurricanes with our good friend Trip Tracy. It's an interesting team.
They're in Buffalo. Tomorrow they're in Buffalo. We'll see.
They are. By the way, as we discovered when we were looking ahead at games this week, 6 p.m. start. So for those wanting to watch that Hurricanes Sabres game, 6 p.m. start, as Pierre pointed out to me when I said, what the hell is that? What did you tell me, Pierre?
It's national TV night, so they're going to play the one game out. Yeah, because they're going to have a doubleheader, and they'll play one early at 6, and then they'll play the other one at 8:30 so they can get it into prime time scheduling. That's how they're going to do it.
So that's why that's at 6. So looking forward to that. And then, as we told you, we will have our man from UMass, Pierre. And what is your colleague's name that you're working at UMass?
Nathan Strauss.
There
Good
we go.
man.
Looking
Really
forward
good
to it.
job. You know who he
Rises
reminds me
up.
of? He reminds me of Kenny Albert.
Wow.
Very, very, very similar. Yep. Very
You know what I
similar.
love here? I don't know. Am I allowed to say what it was when you first worked with him and he pulled out the euphemisms and everything?
Yeah, go ahead. You're allowed to say.
Yeah, I asked Pierre, I said, hey, how was that kid you worked with? And he said, I'll tell you what, I get there and he pulls out, he's got, these sayings and euphemisms that I used to use that Doc Emmerich used and other, legendary announcers. It was great. He had a whole book of it. So I thought that was pretty
I thought
cool.
he's been fantastic. I've done 3 games with him, maybe 3 or 4 games. I forget. He's good. He's got the passion for it. His work habits are insane because he doesn't just do hockey. He does basketball. He does women's soccer. He does men's soccer. He does lacrosse. And he's just getting reps after reps after. Like, that's how you get good at this. And he's a smart kid. He's a really smart kid, and he loves it. You'll see when he comes on, he'll be like Kenny. He's just like Kenny Albert.
You know what? I'm sidetracking again, but what you were just talking about, getting the reps there, Pierre, it made me think. For the longest time, Pierre, when you first got into business, even when I first got into business, if you were a radio play-by-play guy, you're probably going to have to go down to the E and work your way up, right? You're probably going to have to get your reps down there and, some unknown town in the South or wherever, maybe it's a league in the middle of the United States, who knows? But you weren't starting at the NHL and probably weren't starting at the AHL either. Now, Pierre, you know what? When you think about it, and I'm not for all the streaming stuff. I think it has its pros and cons. But one of the pros for this streaming world that we're in right now with ESPN Plus, them picking up all these college games, that's giving these kids coming out of college a greater chance to get these reps without having to move to the middle of nowhere.
It's a very good point. Do me a favor, Jimmy, as I'm talking, can you look up who is the radio play-by-play voice for the New Orleans Saints? And if it's the same person, I'll tell you a great story.
All right.
Because I think it is.
Mike Haas?
No, then it's changed. So the young man, I hired
broadcasters in history. Who's the guy you were thinking of? Do you know?
His first name's Chris. His nickname is Gramps.
Okay. No, they don't have it listed here.
Okay. So this guy is from Canton, New York. His best friend growing up, Greg Carville.
Oh, wow.
So I always knew him as Gramps. That was his nickname. So when I went to Baton Rouge to work with St. Louis's farm team, actually coach it, I hired Gramps to come down and work in PR and be the play-by-play guy.
Oh, wow.
And after I left, he stayed probably 3 or 4 more years. He ended up getting hired by the New Orleans Saints as their radio play-by-play guy. So to your point, it's just an example of what guys can do.
Yeah.
They get and women, by the way, they get these reps. They get their opportunities to do this. Yeah.
I know a lot of these kids, you just mentioned how Nathan's working multiple sports. A ton of them are doing that right now.
Yeah. No, Nathan works. I think all the viewers and listeners, when they hear Nathan, they'll be like, okay, now I see what McGuire's talking about. This guy's got a chance to be good at it. Because I can tell you, I think it's 4. I know we got a bunch more coming up, but he's been tremendous to work with. Really fun.
Nice. Is he doing does he do every UMass game, Pierre?
As far as I know.
Okay. So he'll be doing the Merrimack games this week.
Yeah.
Those are 2 big games for both teams. All right. Let's tell you a little bit about the month we got coming ahead. We've got some great stuff lined up. As I've been telling you,
we need some product placement with our new supporter, Sam Adams.
Samuel Adams. Some room there, huh? We're gonna have to really expand the screen here, but we'll make it work. But before we get to that, just want to remind everybody, I will be down if you're in the Connecticut area. Sacred Heart University, January 24th, starts in the afternoon. A doubleheader between all the 4 Division I schools for Connecticut will be playing, and it's a charity for a famous, really great hockey man that the world lost a few years back, Jason Pagney from Connecticut. CT Ice is what it's called. You want to check it out there. We're going to have some great guests coming on. When I have the link, we're going to give you a link. They have a silent auction. You can bid for prizes, some really cool stuff. I've actually got my outfit all planned out, Pierre, that you're going to like. Just trust me on that.
I won't be there to witness your outfit.
Oh, you won't be.
I'll
You'll see
doing
me.
the show from UMass.
Unless you're not there, I'm wearing it in your honor because we are going to be in Connecticut.
You're okay.
Wink,
Okay.
wink.
You got a whaler? You got a whaler crest?
Maybe. Anyhow,
Okay, good.
all right, here we go. So that's January 24th. Then the next week, February, the first 2 Mondays in February, Pierre and I will be broadcasting from 4 to 5 p.m. At West End Johnny's on 138 Portland Street before the Bean Pot. And we're very excited to have Sam Adams getting behind us on board. They've got some great specials. They're going to be sending those to me tonight. I'm coordinating it with Sophia from Sam Adams and the Boston Beer Company. So once I have all the details of what they'll be promoting, I'll get it up here for you. But really psyched to have them on board. And we'll be back there 2 weeks later for the Four Nations Face-Off. And that's the one we'll be there 6 to 7 p.m. Before the Four Nations Face-Off, again at West End Johnny's. And in between that, we will be up in Montreal on Upper Peel at 1420 Peel Street, McLean's Public House. Before every Four Nations game there from 6 to 7. So we are going to be rolling around, and Pierre's always on the road, so he's used to this, but I'll be getting a lot of road work in as well. So
you are going to start doing road work.
Yep.
You're going to have to.
I know. You know what I need, Pierre? I need, I've got a couple, but I'm sure you've got more. I need some scouting reports on some good little sandwich places along the highway. All right.
I'm going to give you recommendations for a gymnasium.
Okay. Interesting. Sounds good because I need it. All right. So that's going to be exciting. Really looking forward to all that coming up. But until then, we also want to talk about our other sponsor, Betway. You know them right now. They've still got this special going. Man, they're just keeping it going. Good for them. Go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200, even if your first bet loses. That's right. They will pay you to lose. Scan the QR code in front of you if you're watching right now. Otherwise, go to the details section on the website and redeem your welcome offer. And of course, that offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. The offer is not available in Ontario. You must be 18 plus. Please play responsibly. All right, let's go to the sick pick of the day. What do we got?
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by Betway.
Pierre, so I told you that insane stat for Georgiev, the goalie who started the season with Colorado Avalanche and has been traded to San Jose. So these are his stats with Colorado and San Jose combined. This is his team stats, I should say, in the first period. Now, sometimes they come back to win. Sometimes they don't. But these are the stats when Georgiev has been in net in the first period this season. 2, 19, and 4 in the first period when he starts a game. That is not good. So on that note, I'm looking at the Red Wings and Sharks game tonight. You want to get all over the Red Wings. They're on a win streak right now. First period puck line at plus 130 money value. Also, I'd sprinkle a little on the over in the first period. He has given up 2 goals or more in the first period 10 times. So you want to get on that maybe. And then I'm also going to give you this is just a wild one, some fun ones. For those who aren't used to gambling, you can go and you can pick correct scores, not only for a game, but for a period as well. So if you were to take a 2-1 score in Detroit's favor after the first period, you would get it at plus 3,000. Little fun bet, $5 gets you a lot of payoff there. So those are the bets. First period puck line, Red Wings. First period over 1.5 in the Red Wings Sharks. And the score after 1 period of play in Red Wings Sharks, 2-1. Let's get to the Q&A. All right, Brian from Gurney. Where's Gurney? Do we know, Pierre?
No clue. I have no idea. But I like Brian's questions.
All right, I'm tuning in on my birthday. Well, happy birthday, Brian. You love the podcast. Thank you. What are the causes of teams that are great in the regular season yet flop in the playoffs? That's a great question.
Well, part of it's goaltending, sometimes, not always, but it's a part of it. Part of it's a lack of discipline. Part of it's a team that's not prepared to play in the playoffs. They got too many young guys or not enough heavy guys. And sometimes it's coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's coaching. One coach gets a bead on the other team and he devours the other team. It's just the way it goes.
Yep. How about Pierre? They never, no one's ever going to admit it, but you have to think at times overconfidence gets in, when a 1 seed falls to an 8 seed or something like that.
Well, I don't know if Boston, Florida a couple of years ago, I don't know if Boston was overconfident. You would know better than I. You're around those guys, but I don't know if they were overconfident. I'll tell you one thing. I don't know if they were prepared for Florida to smash them in the mouth.
2 things. And this is my opinion. I'm not saying this is it. This is fact, because you really can never prove that unless you're in their heads. My opinion is, yes, I thought they were overconfident at times in that series, going into it at least. But I think what Pierre just said was the biggest factor of all, and that goes in line with what he's saying. It's just a much more physical time of year than the regular season. All right, next question.
Happy birthday, by the way, to Brian from Gurney.
Yes, happy birthday, Brian. Enjoy it. All right. Bert L asks, if you're Chicago during free agency this summer, who are you targeting? And what are you selling free agents on joining one of the worst teams in the league currently? Quickly, I'll just say, Pierre, I am targeting size. Actually, all the attributes we just said you need to win in the playoffs, I'm targeting some of that there. And maybe some more leadership just to kind of get through the ups and downs.
My sales pitch is the city of Chicago, an original 6 franchise, tremendous legacy place, awesome places to live. Most free agents are a little bit older. They have young families starting out. So I'm recruiting based on original 6, great building, awesome city, and the players get treated amazingly well. I have a friend that plays there, and they get treated, the families and the players get treated fantastically well. I think they're a long way away. I'm not going to pretend.
We do.
I told Jimmy this both off and on the air, but look, I'm not trying to pick a fight with Blackhawk fans, but they're a long way away. Yeah. Doesn't mean they're not going in the right direction, but they got a ways to go.
All right, next question. Brad K. I'm bringing my son to Air Force Army this weekend. Cool. Point. Do you have any experience or interaction with any of the U.S. service academies? I'll let Pierre.
I have a ton. My daughter was recruited by the Naval Academy, and I took her there on her recruiting visit. And she loved it, but she decided to go to Dartmouth. That's number one. My grandfather taught math after World War I at the Naval Academy. So that's a pretty cool story. I coached games at West Point when I was at Babson and also at St. Lawrence at the old rink, Smith Arena, I think it was called, in the new rink. And if you're going there to West Point, you got to go to the Thayer Hotel. And I don't know if you're going there with children, Brad, or if you're going with an older group of people, but go to the Thayer Hotel. It's right on campus. You can walk to the rink from there, have dinner if you can, have an adult beverage if you want, whatever. The Thayer Hotel is a legendary place, and it's right on campus. You can't – if you go to West Point, you got to go there. But I have tremendous thoughts about all the military academies, and I'm grateful, like Jimmy is, for everybody that defends us every single day, and a lot of people that do come from those academies. So thank you very much.
Sure. Awesome question. All right, next question. Randy Workman, the Flames are really struggling with penalty killing. How do you teach a better penalty kill?
Video and practice. Stick position, body position, taking away avenues, angling, knowing when to pinch if you're going to be an aggressive team, knowing when to back off, knowing what outlets are. I mean, it doesn't sound sexy on the radio, or on a podcast, but there are a lot of ways to teach it. But video would be one of them, and then practicing. Jacques Lemaire taught penalty killing better than any coach I ever saw. I copied a lot of what he did. I always studied him. I thought he was an amazing teacher of penalty kill.
All right. Next question. Chris L. Question for Pierre and Jimmy. What does Connor Bedard's next contract look like in July? Well, that's right. It's already up. Bridge. And is he a center? Cheers. Great shows. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Chris, your notes really mean a lot to us. I would not bridge him myself, but everybody's got their own appetite. I don't believe in bridging superstar players. He's going to be a superstar player. I don't know what the dollar value would be. I got to think it starts with a 10. Mm-hmm. You know, I was part of doing Brady Tkachuk's contract out of entry level, and that was 3 years ago now. So with inflation, I got to think he's starting at 10, but I don't know.
Is he a center?
He can be, but I prefer him on the wing just because he doesn't have the same defensive responsibilities. You know, I just think he's not an overly large guy. I just think it's too hard a game for him down low. I prefer him to be up high. And with the red line out, one of the schemes, and I don't know if they're going to put it in or not because Anders Sorensen's a new coach, but one of the things I'd be doing every time we got possession, I'd be telling him stretch, go out and across, and I'd tell my D, just get it out there, you know?
Yep.
One of the best players I ever saw, young players, and he was big and he was really good, was Mike Modano. And Bob Gainey implemented that when he coached him in Minnesota when he got there, and it changed how you had to defend against the Minnesota North Stars back then. I'm just telling you. It was Mike was really good at it. And I don't know if they have the archives in Chicago or not, but and this is when the red line was in, Jimmy. I would go and look at what Modano was doing in Minnesota, especially, and what the defense were doing to get him the puck. I mean, it was unbelievable. With Connor Bedard, I'd be doing the same thing.
All right. I'm kind of TBD, but I'm leaning towards wing. All right, next question.
What are you leaning towards? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Wing. I'm leaning towards him being a wing.
Wing. I want him on the wing. I don't want him at center.
Yeah.
Klingberg, I don't know where he goes, but here's what I did. A little deep dive. He's 33 is the number. 33 years of age. He's played 633 games, and he's played 63 playoff games. So lots of number 3. So this will be his 4th team, I think. He was Dallas, Minnesota, Toronto. This will be his 4th team. So 3's out the window. That being said, he can still play a little bit. He can play as a depth player, and he's a vastly underrated puck mover.
Yeah.
He's a very good puck mover.
Yep. All right, next question. Alex Evanowski, Jimmy, I hear what you said about creating a hole on the roster if the Bruins trade for Pettersson, especially on D. My thinking is I think you got to go down swinging and try it. Do you agree? Alex, in terms of the Bruins right now, I'm not going to get into the players right now that they may target or trade. I'm just going to say I'm starting to think they got to just start looking towards the future. But that's not going to happen because they're not in the business to do that. And Don Sweeney's got to win now, and there's a mandate from above. So I don't think that's going to happen, but I think that's what should happen. So,
hey, Jimmy, before we go any further, what's the update on Charlie McAvoy? Because I know you're
that's right. Glad you brought that. I can't believe I forgot that. I apologize. So the Bruins with some news earlier today, it was a lot of transactions. So Matt Poitras was on the ice at practice. Things started going off on Twitter. What's he doing here? Is he being called up? And then sure enough, the team announced they had recalled him and defenseman Michael Callahan from Providence. They then placed forward Mark Kaslick on injury reserve, retroactive from January 9th, placed defenseman Charlie McAvoy, as Pierre just said, on injured reserve, retroactive January 11th. Apparently, he's had a nagging injury that they think is going to at least be a couple games before he can come back. This one surprised us, though, because he's been skating the last few days. He skated again today. Mm-hmm. They placed defenseman Hampus Lindholm, who has just been on injured reserve. They placed him on LTIR. And, of course, that's retroactive from way back in November. But that kind of put some antennas up in terms of, a lot of people were speculating, are they clearing cap space for something? So nothing yet. But I'll tell you what, for the Bruins fans who have been pretty hard on Charlie McAvoy, just as they were on Hampus Lindholm, you're about to get a taste of what life is like without Charlie McAvoy. And I think it might change your opinion of what he means to that team. That's all.
Well said, Jimmy. Well said.
All right, next question. Postnet on 130. The East has 7 teams within 4 points of each other, all in the mix. Buffalo is 9 points out, though, of the wild card spot. Will this all continue to the season's end? The West is not so crazy. No, I think the thinning out is going to be coming very shortly.
I'll give you an example because it involves a team that I used to work for, the Pittsburgh Penguins. So in the month of January, the Pittsburgh Penguins have 1 win, 2 losses, and 3 overtime or shootout losses. Okay, they've played 6 games. They play Seattle tonight at home. Then they're on the road for 7 straight. Listen to this. In Buffalo, in Washington, in LA, in Anaheim, in Seattle, in San Jose, in Utah. So by the end of January, the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to know exactly where they're going to be. Are they going to be real for the playoffs or are they going to be out? They're going to know. They're going to know. They're 8 games away from knowing. They're going to know. And that's one example.
Okay. But here's the biggest question, Pierre, and I agree with everything you just said. But as we've seen sometimes, even though teams know, sometimes they refuse to accept the truth.
Well, that's where you have to have mature ownership, and you just say, okay, enough.
Yep.
Okay, enough. You told me when you got the job, this is what you were going to deliver. They haven't been in the playoffs for 2 straight years. They're probably looking at a third.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so don't tell me all the hyperbole. Just lay it out there. I won't be mad at you if I'm the owner. I'm not going to be mad at you. Just lay it out.
Yep.
Tell me how are we going to fix this.
Yep. I'm with you on that. All right, next question. Sound the siren. Guys, assuming the cap goes up 6 million maybe, we all think that's great. But what about the negative economic impacts that can have on, especially on Canadian franchises that you guys have noted with regards to the Canadian dollar? Great point, Sound the siren.
All fair and good. Here's the one thing I'd say, Jimmy. I mean, I know everybody's speculating the cap's going up. Has it gone up?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Twice we've been told it would go up drastically, and it hasn't, Pierre.
I know. That's what I'm saying. So I don't know if it's going up or not. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Here's what I know. I'm in Canada a lot, and I'm in the United States a lot. And the economy in Canada is nowhere near what people in the United States are used to. I'm just telling you. Not even close.
Yeah. I hope it turns around. All right, next question. Sign the siren again. Another question. Pierre, do you have any updates or insights on the Whalers' 50th anniversary celebration? I'm continuing to learn and appreciate the history of that franchise.
Well, Chuck Caton was there this past weekend hosting 50 years of pro hockey in Hartford. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. And he had a great time at it, the legendary Chuck Caton, the Hall of Famer. So I'm really excited that he had an opportunity to be there. The Whalers were an amazing franchise. They really were. They took the world by storm. And when it was smoking hot there, it was hot. It was really hot. The Whalers were hot. They were great. They had character players. They played a fun style. They had lots of tough guys. It was good. It was good. It's unfortunate. The one thing, again, we talk about the economics, pressing economic issues. Hartford was known as the insurance capital of the world.
Yep.
When I left Pittsburgh to go coach there, it went from number 1 in the world to 19th in the world.
Yeah.
Like the infrastructure of the city just crumbled because everybody went away. Dubuque, Iowa had more insurance institutions in Dubuque than they had in Hartford. So, I mean, that's not the team's fault. That's just the reality of real life business.
It's for another time, and maybe not even for this podcast because it's more financial, Pierre. But I was thinking about this the other day too, because somebody asked, "Do you think the Whalers would ever come back?" And I said, "I don't think so." But they made a good point. They said, over the last, let's say, 10 to 15 years, so many people that are wealthy have even been pushed out of New York City, right? And they come up into Connecticut, and there's been more wealth going into Connecticut. Apparently, though, that hasn't helped enough to build an infrastructure.
Yeah, the wealth isn't going to Hartford. It's going to New Canaan and Darien and Greenwich.
That's what I thought.
And Norwalk and those places, Rowayton. It's going there. It's not going up to Hartford. Most of those people still work. So they instead of having a 2.5 hour commute, they have a 35 to 40 minute commute on the train. So it's a little different.
All right. Next question. Alex Evanowski. Pierre, during your time as a broadcaster with NBC, who was the best coach during that time period? Babcock, Q, Sutter, Julian, Trott, Sullivan, or someone else come to mind?
Babcock was the best interview of any of them, not even close. And then the second best I can tell you was Quenneville. But Babcock was amazingly enlightening. He told you exactly where you stood. He gave you tons of stuff. Quenneville was the same. One of the things that we tried, and this was Sam Flood's idea, and I thought it was a really good idea, to tell the coaches, this is your opportunity to show the world and the other owners in the league how calm, composed, intelligent, and focused you are when it's real live fire. It's an amazing way to start a job interview. So that's kind of how we presented it to the coaches. And I thought over time, we did it for 16 years. Over time, they all got better. Even the new guys got better. Guy Boucher got better when he was in Tampa. He got really good at it. I thought one of the most improved was probably Randy Carlyle, who at the beginning didn't even want to talk. And then
Yeah.
he really started, especially in 07 when they won the Cup against Ottawa. Torch, I'll never forget Torch. I hope Torch is watching this. John, it's a 12 o'clock start, and I go on his bench, and he goes, "What are you doing here?" And I looked at him. I said, "I'm about to talk to you." "I'm not doing that." I said, "Oh, yes, you are." And he goes, "No, I'm not." And so they hear me in the truck. They're like, "Come on, Pierre." So I said, "Hey, John," I said this, and I don't know if he remembers, but I'm just telling you what I said. I said, "Hey, John, how much do you get paid?" "That's none of your business." I said, "Well, I guarantee you part of how you get paid is what my company pays the NHL. So you're going to do this interview, okay?" "Okay, if you say so." And he was really good.
Oh, that's awesome.
But like John was, when he was in New York, he was different, okay? Yeah. He was different.
Yep.
But I would tell you what, he's a heck of a hockey coach. Like, I don't care if people don't like him. I'm telling you right now, that guy's a really good hockey coach.
Look how we started the show off. He's the main reason for that, in my opinion. Talking about the Flyers. I mean,
anyways, long story short on that one, the guys in the truck and the girls, they're saying to me like, "Wow, you just told him he got paid because of the money." I said, "Yeah, I did."
Oh boy. Yeah, he would be fun on the bench. That's for sure. Do you ever the players hear you, right? I mean, they're right there within earshot. Any of the guys ever crack up at any interaction between you and the coach?
And it's a really good one. I got a good one to tell you on that. That's a good question. So when Anaheim got to the final, like, they had good players, obviously Pronger and Niedermeyer, and you look up front, Teemu Selanne. They had a lot of good players. And so Brian Burke was working out one day early in the playoffs in the morning, just before the morning skate, and Sam Flood and I went in there and said, "We got a favor to ask of you. You don't have an inside the glass position. We don't want Pierre to work down in the Zamboni door. It's just not the same feel. Do you think you'd ever let him on your bench to broadcast the games?"
Oh boy.
He goes, 100%, because he's worked behind the bench before as a coach, and I know he's not going to intrude. I said, "I give you my word. I'll stand at one end. I'll never interact with anybody." So we're getting deep into the playoffs now, and there's an afternoon game, and somebody made a really bad turnover. So I just go very simply, "That was an egregious turnover that player will want to have back." And Sean O'Donnell, who is a beast of a man, like a good player, important player, he turns around. He's sitting next to Niedermeyer and Pronger. He turns around. He goes, "What does that mean?" The whole thing started laughing. We're in the middle of a playoff game. I didn't mean it to be like that. And Carlisle just looked at me. He goes, and I go, "No, Coach, I didn't say anything to your players."
OD was a great guy. Oh, I liked him.
Oh, and you know what? How about what a nice man?
He is.
Tough as nails, right?
The whole family was really nice, man. I got to know him.
Tough as nails. Sean O'Donnell, tough as nails, but nice. So nice.
Yeah.
Real gentleman.
Yep. He was a big part of that team. All right. Next question. What do we got? JD LaGrange. What's up, JD?
Yeah.
Nashville is obviously a huge disappointment, having spent big money on UFAs and trading Carrier for Barron. What is their plan looking ahead to the trade deadline?
Great question. That's such a good question, JD. Like, I can tell you, Montreal's changed since they got Alex Carrier.
Yep.
Because he and Gooley play together as a partnership, and so that's allowed Hudson and Matheson to play. Then they can move Jack Guy and Savard down. That Carrier acquisition has been great for Montreal. Plus, he's a right-hand shot. They needed that on their defense. I think Nashville's going to be proactive at the deadline. I don't think they like their team. I don't. Nobody's told me that. Barry Trotz hasn't told me that. Nobody in their David Poyle hasn't told me that. I'm just telling you, I think they'll be very active at the deadline.
There's a center that has a Stanley Cup ring that I'm sure a lot of teams that think they have a chance would love to get.
I don't know how this experiment went wrong, because I thought they had a good summer.
Did too. Sometimes things just don't work out. It is what it is.
It just didn't work.
You know, it is what it
Kind of
is.
hard to watch, right, Jimmy? Because I think we both.
A lot of those guys are really good guys from what we know.
We thought it was going to be good, but it didn't. Yeah. And you knew right away. You could tell right from the start there's something wrong here. It's not working.
Yeah. All right, next question. Sound the siren. Assuming Division I and Division II college athletics fully approve, Let's Go Hockey, the 26 and 13.5 full athletic scholarships by 25-26, Does D3 get a bone thrown to them to get a few athletic scholarships?
0. That's why it's D3. No scholarships.
Yeah.
All aid-based. There'll be
That's
0
it.
scholarships in Division 3.
Yeah. All right. Next. And by the way, thanks again to Coach Taylor for joining us last week from Hobart.
How about the response in that interview?
Yeah. That
It's
was
been
awesome.
amazing.
We appreciate their compliments, but the pleasure's ours.
Yeah, Mark, you did it all. Like the alumni there, it's been like a ground. It's been amazing. It's been really good.
Good. It's good. It was our pleasure.
Yes.
All right. Next question. WK, with the Heineman injury, does that hurt the Habs playoff chances?
We're gonna know a lot more tonight.
Mm-hmm.
If he's out for 3 to 4 weeks, Jimmy, and they can't find a guy that can fit on that line, they'll probably play Pizzetta tonight. Do you think? Probably.
Yeah, that's what we're saying so far. Yeah, that's
but I wonder at some point if Joshua Roy's not brought up.
I
I wonder at some point if maybe Luke Tuck's not brought up to play there. I wonder if at some point maybe they don't put Owen Beck up.
That's
I don't know. But I know
That's what I want to say.
So there's a bunch of different directions they can go in. But I know one thing. Laval's doing really well. Pascal Vincent and staff done a very nice job there. They don't have Dobish there right now. Primo's there, and he's doing really well. So they want that team to do well in the playoffs too. So I don't know how much they want to mess with that, but Pizzetta gets the first chance, I guess.
All right, next question. Brandon Parker, thanks for the show as always, guys. Thank you, Brandon. Pierre, what are some keys to victory you would tell Montreal going in this game with Utah?
I want to pressure right away. Right away, I want to put pressure.
Don't let that crowd get into it.
What's that?
Don't let that crowd be a factor.
No, let's get pressure on them right away. Take the crowd out of that thing because they're right on top of you. It's a unique building. And the other thing, too, is I would elevate the puck all the time. Every time I shot the puck, I'd elevate. I don't care who their goalie is. I'd elevate the puck all the time.
Yep, with you on that. All right, next question. Gabriel Lamb, if the financial situation doesn't change in Canada, would any team look to relocate?
Hey, they had discussions about this with Winnipeg a year ago, Jimmy.
Yep.
You know that.
Yep. I don't think they look, but they might be told.
I don't think anybody's looking to leave Canada. Ottawa's looking to get a building built. Obviously, Vancouver's got a great building. Edmonton's got a great building. Calgary's going to get a new building. Toronto's building is always being upgraded. It's phenomenal. It's state of the art. They're not going. So will somebody move? I don't know. It's been done before.
Right.
Do I think it's prudent? Probably not. Like, there's going to be an election in Canada soon too. Let's see. This is not a political show, but let's just see what happens.
There's just so many outside. Yeah. Well, let's just put it this way, Pierre. There is so many outside circumstances that will take effect.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in Canada right now. So let's just see what happens with that. I'm biased. I like Mark Chipman, the owner in Winnipeg. I like Scott O'Neill a ton, the coach there. I think Kevin Cheveldayoff's done an amazing job as a GM there. I do. Look at the team he's putting on the ice. It's a good team. There's a lot to like there. It's unfortunate. The town's just not – it's a city. It's not that big.
Yeah.
So it's got to be an area team, not a city team, and that's hard to do in the wintertime there. Trust me, it's not easy.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next question. Postnet on 130. What does a playoff appearance mean financially in general terms to a team, ownership, players, advertisers, etc.? Pierre, you want to take it?
If you get to the second round more times than not, you're going to go past break even as a team. You got to get to the playoffs probably to break even and get past the first round. Now, it's not every team. Some teams do real well. I would say if Vegas didn't make the playoffs, they're not going to have a cash call. I would say if any of the original 6 teams get to the first round, they don't have to have a cash call. They're making money. But there's some teams that need it because they just can't charge the same dollar value for tickets. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to tell you the team, but here's what I'll tell you. I spoke to a GM after his team got eliminated last year in the first round. And I said, heck yeah, I had a real good run. I really commend you. He goes, you know what? My owner's going to be mad at me. I go, why is that? He goes, we were budgeted for the second round to break even. So it depends on the market you're in. It really does.
Just had a thought go through my head, but I'll run it by you off air and then maybe say it here tomorrow. All right, next question. Chris Blue Shirts. Hey, guys, this road trip is very important. I think that the season hinges on the results. Talking about the Rangers. Also, why was Berard sent down? And finally, let's get Molly Walker back on. Great show. Keep it up. Let's go Rangers. Chris, I'll just say I credit where it's due. They're playing some better hockey, more purpose, more structure lately. Totally agree with you. It's been better late. What, like 3 of 4 they've won? So credit to them for starting to string it together a bit.
Hey, credit where credit's due. My partner keeps trying to get Molly Walker on the show, and Molly Walker's too busy.
Yeah.
So just so you know, it's not because we're not trying to get Molly on. We've been trying to get Molly on. She's just a really busy young lady. We can't get her on. And in terms of Brett Berard, I have no idea. I
didn't he?
couldn't tell you.
Was it last game and the game before? He made a bad penalty. He had a bad penalty, and he got ripped on going to the bench by the coach. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Who knows?
Well, I'll tell you what, if that's going to be the penalty for taking a penalty, you're going to lose some of the aggression
a lot of guys
from your players.
Nobody left on the bench.
I'm not doing that.
Oh, there we go. Good stuff. All right, that's it for our questions. Really appreciate all your questions there. Again, tomorrow, Hall of Famer Kenny Holland join us here on the Sick Podcast and the Eye Test. I want to thank him too for just finishing off a move. So we appreciate him taking the time. I know how stressful moves can be. Done it way too much, as Pierre knows too. So we appreciate Kenny Holland taking the time. We appreciate our great staff up in Montreal on the boards. And Pierre, enjoy the hockey night. 13 games.
13 games. I have the post game tonight with our friend Tony Marinaro, Montreal versus Utah. So we're doing the post game tonight on the Sick Podcast Network.
And look at that. As I'm signing off, I get a text from our good friend Stu Ashton and McLean's. Jimmy, I'm back from vacation. Let's talk tomorrow and get this thing going. So we'll have some news in our Montreal shows
Don't worry, Stu. We're ready to go, baby.
Yep. We're looking forward to that. All right. This has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.